talk about a lot of shows on this channel, mainly horror anthology shows that are fairly recently made. But I do get comments that ask me to talk about other lesser known anthology series. And while researching some of these shows, because yes, I do read your comments and yes, I do look at everything that is recommended to me, I always end up in this rabbit hole of crazy horror shows that I've never heard of in my life. I mean, there are tons of different horror and sci-fi shows that look incredibly interesting. So today I decided to take a break from my usual videos, mainly because I need a little more time to work on them, to talk about a few of these shows that I found recently, and I think they look pretty interesting, and hopefully I'll help you find something new to watch. But I've already said enough, so let's quit yapping and get into it. Monsters is a show that ran from 1988 to 1991. It was created by Richard P. Rubinson and Mitchell Gallen. Rubinson was one of the executive producers for a really famous show called Tales from the Dark Side, but he became frustrated about the show. Tales from the Dark Side would get great reviews about storytelling and the acting, but never about the makeup or special effects of the show. So he put together a reel of all the great special effects that they've done over the years, and he took it to Tribune Entertainment Company. And together they created the TV show Monsters. There are 3 seasons of Monsters with 72 episodes in total, with each episode of Monsters featuring a different, well, monster. It has your typical monsters like, werewolves, vampire, zombies, but there are some pretty strange and unique ones as well. The first episode alone is quite strange. What is that thing? But they also have creatures like my boy Glim Glim here. I love Glim Glim. Just like most horror shows, not every episode was strictly horror. They would have some comedic episodes as well to break up all the tension and the scares. And if you're interested in checking this series out, you can watch the whole series on Prime, and I believe 1 season is on Tubi for free. Hello, Editing Newsme here. Not wearing the same clothes as I was yesterday. Season 2 and 3 are no longer on Amazon Prime. Apparently they ran out of the license, so you can only watch Season 1 on Tubi and Amazon Prime. I'm sure if you did some internet sleuthing, you could find Season 2 and 3, but I didn't have time to look. Sorry about that. I personally haven't finished the series myself, but I am absolutely loving it and I want to talk about it. All my Canadian fans might know this one. Freaky Stories is an animated Canadian anthology show that started in 1997 all the way to 2000 with 3 seasons and 140 segments in total. And the show was described as a Twilight Zone for kids. But I don't remember the Twilight Zone being hosted by a cockroach and a maggot. Hey, but I might be wrong. Each episode starts with these puppets, Larry the Bug and Maurice the Maggot, hanging out in their disgusting 1940s diner before they move on to 3 animated story segments about myths and legends.
And I'll be right back after this freaky story.
Usually the stories are used to teach kids a lesson, and each segment is also animated differently in order to keep the kids' attentions on the screen and to just, try out some new animation. Even though the show is quite goofy and made for kids, that doesn't mean there isn't a few segments that are especially spooky and leave you with an uneasy feeling in your stomach. And they always end their stories with,
"That was a true story. It happened to a friend of mine."
Okay, yeah, sure. And if you're interested in watching Freaky Stories, you can find the whole thing on Tubi and Roku.
Demons come from every side.
So Weird is a Disney show that aired from 1999 all the way to 2001. It has 3 seasons and 65 episodes in total, and it was created by a man named Tom J. Astle. And a wild fun fact, Henry Winkler is an executive producer for the show. What the hell? It's an incredibly underrated Disney show that is sort of similar to the X-Files in a way. It's a lot darker than most of the other shows that were on the channel at the time, and unlike most of the other shows in this list, the show actually follows a story. The show follows Fiona, or Fee, and she lives on a tour bus with her family because her mom is a rock star. Fee has a strange attraction to the paranormal that only gets amplified when somebody starts sending her articles about alien invasions, ghosts, and other strange things that are happening around her. And Fee believes that it's her dead father. You see, Fee's dad died when she was just 3 years old, and this encounter just fueled her want for answers. So this show follows that story of her trying to find answers, and it tells an incredible story along the way. And it also has some genuinely scary episodes at times. I highly recommend you check this series out, especially if you're a Disney adult. And if you're interested, of course, it's on Disney+. Freddy's Nightmares is a show created by Wes Craven himself. The show is a spin-off of the Nightmare on Elm Street movie series, and each episode starts with Freddy Krueger himself introducing the stories, similar to like the Cryptkeeper in Tales of the Crypt. The show only lasted for 2 seasons with 44 episodes in total, from 1988 all the way to 1990. Each episode is incredibly dark and grim, and is set on the iconic street of Elm Street. Freddy is actually the main antagonist of a few of the stories, but not all of them. Although it is hinted that he has a hand in most of what's happening in every plotline. The episodes are an hour long and broken down into 2 different stories split in the first and second half of the show. The show is horrifying, dark, surreal, and also hilarious at times. And I highly recommend it if you love Wes Craven or just the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And it's also free on Plex, so you have no excuse to not check it out. There's a similar series to Freddy's Nightmares simply called Friday the 13th, the series. It was created by the producer of the Friday the 13th films, Frank Mancuso Jr. and Larry B. Williams. Friday the 13th, the series, lasted from 1987 to 1990 with 3 seasons and 72 episodes in total. And despite the title being Friday the 13th and it being considered part of the film franchise, there really isn't any connections to it at all. Unlike the previous show where Freddy Krueger literally shows up in every episode, we don't see Jason at all in this show. Instead, it follows Mickey Foster and Ryan Dallion as they track down cursed artifacts and objects and bring them back to their uncle's antique shop because their uncle made a pact with the devil and then broke that pact with the devil. So obviously the devil took their uncle's soul and scattered these incredibly powerful objects all over the world and time. Most of the time the object would grant whoever has them incredible powers, but usually using the powers would cause someone to die. But I highly recommend you watch this show as well. It's an incredible show, super fun and super interesting, and it has some great special effects in there as well. And all the stories will keep you in your seat and interested the whole time. And if you're willing to cough up $50, you can buy the complete series on Amazon. Or you can just watch most of the episodes here on YouTube. That's what I did. Night Gallery is an anthology horror show created by the iconic Rod Serling. Rod is known for his legendary show, The Twilight Zone, that would be more science fiction, but Night Gallery would be focused more on the supernatural and darker stories. The show started in 1970 and would last for 3 seasons with 43 episodes in total. Rod starts every episode in an art gallery and introduces the segment of the show, kind of like he did in The Twilight Zone. The segments are a mixture of original stories written by Rod himself, as well as some story adaptations from classic dark fantasy stories like H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe. This show sadly wasn't as big of a hit as Twilight Zone, but it's still a great show and it tells some very haunting stories. Rod seriously really leaned into the horror aspect for this series, so if you love The Twilight Zone but yearn for more scares, this show might be for you. Sadly, it's not streaming on anything. Nothing at all. I couldn't find a single place where I could watch it online. Now let's go back to more family-friendly shows with the Tales from the Cryptkeeper. Of course, with the incredible success of Tales from the Crypt, they would want to make a version for the whole family. Tales from the Cryptkeeper is a milder version of the HBO show. It took away all the blood, gore, and sexual content so that kids could also enjoy the fun stories that the iconic Cryptkeeper had stored away. The show aired in 1993 and has 3 seasons with 39 episodes in total, so it's a pretty easy binge watch. The show is also animated, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's not scary. Okay, most of the time it's not scary, but there are moments that will surprise you. Overall, the show is just a ton of fun, and it's actually really enjoyable to watch. You can find it on multiple platforms, but it's free on Tubi. If you have Prime, the whole series is there as well. We're gonna go back in time a bit to check out 1963's The Outer Limits. The Outer Limits is a show that is similar to The Twilight Zone, but with a huge emphasis on science fiction. It lasted for 2 seasons and 49 episodes from 1963 all the way to 1965, but it was revived in 1995, and that version did a bit better than the original, so that's usually the version people imagine when you talk about The Outer Limits. The 1963 show is severely underrated, and I'm shocked it's not talked about as much as The Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt. Sure, it's from the 60s and a bit corny at times, but there is incredible special effects in almost every episode. There are grotesque mutated humans, evil robots, slithery worm-like aliens, and even this terrifying thing. Ugh. They bring so many different aliens and monsters to life, and each episode leaves you with an empty, haunting feeling almost. I absolutely love this series, and if you're really into sci-fi horror, I highly recommend you check this out. It's free on Plex. You have no excuse. Go watch it right now. I just realized my goo is fallen. When did this happen? Fucking goo fell off the shelf. What? I bet you my cats did it. I bet you it was my damn cats.
Archies Weird Mysteries.
Now let's end off this video with something a little more familiar. Archie's Weird Mysteries is an animated show that obviously is based off the Archie comics. It only lasted for one season in 1999 with 40 episodes in total. The show takes place in Riverdale, which is a town that is known to be a magnet for the paranormal and supernatural. It's very sad that this show didn't get more seasons because it's incredibly fun. Each episode is absolutely wild, from killer potatoes to Bigfoot to mummies to zombies to ghouls to ghosts to a 50-foot Veronica to vampires to cockroaches. This show is absolutely insane and totally worth a watch. If you love Archie or just into silly horror kid shows, definitely check this one out. The whole show is on Tubi for free, so you also have no excuses. Again, I've said that 4 times in this video. And there you have it. I know this video kind of turned into like my review of all these shows, but I really recommend you check all these shows out. That was just 10 horror shows that I think you should check out. And if you knew some of these shows, let me know about it in the comments below. Also, let me know any other shows you would like for me to check out and possibly make a video like this again. I had a ton of fun researching and looking up all these shows, so I would like to make another. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats, a Discord server, also your name right here on screen, as well as YouTube members. They get lumped in with that as well. Like the video if you like the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.